Hello and welcome to Raising Those Spirits. I'm Steve.
And I'm Sam. Hello and unwelcome. Ooh.
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 You know who's
No, every
unwelcome? Scrappy
who's
Doo.
unwelcome. Scrappy Doo is not welcome anywhere around here in our Scooby Doo discussion. No, we didn't have any. We didn't have any Scrappy Doo this week.
That's because 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, the original, was the last appearance of Scrappy Doo.
Is that true?
Yeah, they
Oh my
haven't.
god.
He might have been in a movie or something, but
He was. He was in the live action movie.
yeah, there's been no series versions of Scrappy Doo since then, which is another reason why he wasn't in the 13 Ghosts movie that just came out that we spoke of last week.
Yeah. Scrappy Doo. He's interesting because I always remember I hope everybody listened to the last episode right before this one, or just like we just launched right into it this week. Um, Scrappy Doo is interesting because I was reading an article about the live action Scooby Doo movie, and James Gunn was saying how he kind of regretted, maybe not regretted, but he didn't realize when he made Scrappy Doo the villain of the live action movie from 2002, I think it came out. He didn't realize how popular Scrappy was with 5 and 6 year olds. And 5 and 6 year olds are a big part of the Scooby Doo fan base. And how they were pretty upset by it because he made Scrappy into an out and out villain. I also think it's kind of meta for the first live action outing. I don't know that I would have made that choice, but hey, I'm not the head of DC Studios, so who knows?
I
I don't know what I'm talking about.
I've never seen either of the live actions, but I would have thought Scrappy would have been the villain of like the second one.
Right? I saw a really good explanation. I forget who did this. One of the YouTube talking heads that I like. A, a long, detailed explanation of why the second Scooby Doo movie would have made way more sense to be the first movie, and the second movie would have made more sense to be the second movie. The first movie would have made more sense to be the second movie. And it made a really good argument just about that. Yeah, the second movie, they were in their hometown. That's kind of what you would expect. The first movie is the one where they go off onto like a different adventure. It kind of makes more sense if you watch them in the opposite order. But yeah, no Scrappy this week. That's nice. Get
Yeah,
out of here, Scrappy. I feel
Scrappy.
like he's probably due for a revamp.
Scrappy was. I read a bunch about Scrappy, annoyingly, because that's what I do. I read it, and basically he was originally seen as a good idea because they had already been doing Scooby Doo for a while by that point, and they needed uh it solved a lot of their story problems because until that point, like Shaggy or Scooby would have to get into a dangerous situation, and there was no like good reason for them to be there most of the time. And Scrappy Doo, since he would always just charge in like a child, that
Mm.
was their easy in as like writers to be like, oh, it's so hard to get to get Shaggy and Scooby into every single one of these situations. But I think he quickly wore out his welcome.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting to see a character that is like he's so connected to the brand. Like we know Scrappy Doo, he's part of the popular culture, but is also so maligned.
Yeah, he ran across eight, no, seven Scooby Doo series from 1979 to 1986.
God, that's so many series in such a short period of time.
Well, I should say six because the seventh one was Mystery Funhouse, which was a package show.
Oh, okay, so it's
Um,
just a rehash, but it's
it
still
was
like a different series every year.
Yeah, basically from 1979 to 1985, there was a new show every year, and Scrappy was on every single one of them.
Wow. And then they realized that Scrappy was a bad idea, and we haven't seen him since, other than as a villain or as a throwaway gag.
Yeah, he's only ever cameoed after that. Like he had a quick cameo in Mystery Incorporated. He had an Easter egg cameo in like a direct to VHS movie, Scooby Doo and the Goblin King. But yeah, otherwise, he's just not around.
Hmm.
They have retired Scrappy Doo.
Well, Warner Brothers, I'm calling you out. I'm saying Warner Brothers, it's time to do a big Scrappy Doo revamp. It's time to save that character that we all hate.
Please don't.
No, I just no. Steve and I are at odds over some Scooby Doo stuff.
You know what? You can only bring back Scrappy if he is on adventures with Flim Flam.
Okay, so Scrappy and Flim Flam. Oh, Flim Flam. Scrappy and Flim Flam get an apartment together. They're bachelors. They're always grifting. No, because this is. Oh no, it's problematic. I'm gonna retract my pitch.
All right, my pitch
Scrappy 2 done.
is Space Ghost Coast to Coast, but it's hosted by Scrappy Doo, and the ethnic band leader is Flim Flam,
Okay, I'd watch it.
right?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. Nailed it.
Perfect. Okay, I like it.
Oh man, we went. We never even saw the rails this episode.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's on topic. Is like
That's true.
it's just off format.
Yeah, on
Oh,
topic, off format.
so if you couldn't guess, we did three more Scooby Doo's this time. But first, we have a few things we have to get through. Do we?
We
Do
have
we?
our opening segments
We have our
that we
opening
didn't do.
segments, and we're actually adding some new opening segments to our opening segments. So bad week to get off the
Standing.
rails.
Oh boy.
All right, so continuing our cryptids by state, I oh man, I lost the name of this. Okay, so my state is Alaska, and Alaska has a lot of really cool cryptids. One of the reasons being is because a lot of their cryptids actually line up with other cryptids from around the world. Like
Ooh,
the one you did last week is also an Alaskan cryptid.
really?
Yes, it's called the. Oh no, there's actually two different half dogs there. They're different things though. So one of them is absolutely a half wolf, half person, where the bottom half is a wolf and the top half is a person.
Hmm. Which again, I don't know how that's supposed to work.
Yeah, they're called the Adlet, but that's not who I'm covering.
Ooh,
Um,
tell me.
so they're called Inukins. Th-
Ooh,
yeah, that's what you get out of that spelling is Inukins.
I would not have guessed that.
Yes, that's why I was looking at it and I was like, this is one of those words that the English letters don't match up with the consonants or anything at all.
Like Irish names.
Yes, it's very much kind of like the Gaelic. Or if you're looking at like Chinese and they just were like, hey, I know you have a letter for that in English, but we're just going to throw a different letter right there. Like a Z or an X.
The X
Uh,
makes it look cool.
so they are basically Alaska's version of like leprechauns. They're called the Little People of Alaska.
Hmm.
So they are a race of miniature human-like creatures with extraordinary powers. They are. I looked at a bunch of different like stories about them, and what they all agree on is that they live in a different dimension than ours, but they can move in and out of our world at will, basically.
Okay.
And despite this, they share a bunch of similarities with humans. They're often spotted hunting and gathering and fishing and such, and they're excellent craftsmen. But there's that's where the road splits. Some stories say they love making mischief and that they'll lead people astray in the wilderness.
Hmm.
Others say they're good luck and bring good fortune. Others say they kidnap people and spirit them away to underground lairs. And one of the common things, again, that I found is that if you end up in their realm, time passes differently. So a day in their world is a year in our time.
Hmm.
So if you do get abducted, and you get out, you're gonna have been gone for a while, which I think explains like a lot of stories of people getting lost in the Alaskan wilderness and like wandering out like a year later, having no idea how much time has passed. Because when you're just lost in the bush,
Oh yeah. Oh, so a bunch of tiny Alaskan carpenter fairies.
yeah,
Like it.
I like it. So, what keywords do we put to try and make this?
In an AI. Well, Alaskan. Or maybe indigenous Alaskan. Indigenous Alaskan leprechaun.
All right. All right. I did indigenous Alaskan leprechaun and Alaskan little people Inukin.
Okay.
Oh, oh no. I hate this one.
Oh,
The bottom right one I actually kind of really like.
the leprechaun or in the top ones?
In the top one,
Oh yeah. No, that's super creepy.
super creepy. As for the leprechaun ones, I actually also like the bottom right a lot.
Oh yeah.
So, all right.
Like he's nice.
I yeah, I think this actually came out pretty cool. Another segment I want to do is we had talked about last week. We created the opposite of what we were looking for, and I think if we're going to create new cryptids, we should create new cryptids. So we have to give a backstory to these cryptids.
Mhm.
So I think we should retroactively do last week, where it was a wolf's body with a woman's legs. What's that about, Sam?
So that is a werewolf where the transformation went wrong.
That's not a new cryptid.
Oh, I know. No, I'm having no. Now I feel like I should have thought of this before. What was the story of the wolf, woman, the wolf's head and shoulders and back legs? A wolf felt very German. Look, I'm gonna do some.
It seemed almost like Red Riding Hood esque.
Hmm, some sort of wolf. I'm gonna look at this
Okay,
here.
I know what it is.
What is it?
This hangs out on wooded backcountry roads and will try and flag down cars by like sticking its leg out like a hitchhiker.
Oh, I like it.
And when people pull over and roll down their windows, it leaps out and, devours them.
Hmm.
Or inversely, it, lies down with the legs like hanging out of the woods so people think they see a body or something and they pull over, and then same thing, it just drags them into the woods.
Oh yeah, like a wolf dragger.
Yeah, what do we call them?
A drag wolf.
A drag wolf.
It's like a drag queen, but a wolf. 'Cause it looks like a woman. But it's really a wolf. Or hound witch. Going with hound witch.
Hound witch. Okay.
All right. So what are we calling our tiny Alaskan carpenter children?
Well, the thing is, we got a real Carpenter child. We need to do a messed up version where it doesn't get the brief.
Oh yeah.
And I think I might have gotten one. Oh, here we go. I love these little guys. Okay. Oh my god, I don't know which one to pick. Sam, they're all beautiful. They're all perfect.
Oh, that is insane. They're so cute and scary.
Right? Like, I'm immediately drawn to the ones in the top right, but I don't know. They're all so good. Bottom left is terrifying. Top left is so interesting. Like, do we focus on the child or do we focus on the things around the child?
I don't know. It's got such a sad little face.
Oh my god. And I'm just in love with these things in the top right.
All right, we're
They're
gonna
like something
post.
out of
We'll put
Star
all.
Wars.
We're gonna put all of these on the Instagram
Oh
to
my
make sure people
god.
could see them.
Yeah. I don't know about the bottom right. The bottom right's just kind of like a pudgy Siberian boy. But
Yeah,
the
I'm
other
gonna call them
three,
the. You need a like a Muppety type name, like a Fergal, like a
oh my
Fergalboggle,
god.
or a little Schmerkle, little Schmerkmucker, or Schmerkboggen. It's the little nose that's killing me on the ones with like with the sweaters.
Mm-hmm. Oh
I want to
man.
watch the whatever Pixar movie these little creatures come out of.
Right? It's like these could have been a bad 80s horror movie along with like Munchies and Critters and like Gremlins, that whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, so that's what I would say that these the little sweater critters are. They live under your bed. They're tiny. They're only about the size of like shoe. They live under your bed. They bring you little presents.
Oh, they hide as balled up socks under your bed.
Yeah, they're like, oh my god, that's exactly what they do. They hide as balled up socks. They're little socklings.
Oh, yes. And what do they do?
They try and give you gifts, but they don't realize they're stealing for other people. So that way, your parents are always mad at you because things are disappearing and they keep showing up in your room. But it's just the socklings.
Okay, that's adjacent to Nissa,
Hmm?
but I like that.
Oh, the socklings. I want to give them all hugs.
I want to start creating all of these like in a database. You know what we could do? We in a few weeks, a little peek ahead, we're going to be doing SPCs, and we could just submit all of these as SPCs.
An SPC. What's an SPC?
I mean, we'll learn that in. They're these things. They're these things that we're making up. They're internet created cryptids, basically.
Oh, right, right. From that okay, from that upcoming episode. Okay.
Yes, yeah, we're going to be doing an episode on them. I actually found another similar thing called the back rooms,
Mm-hmm.
which I
I've heard
think,
of the backgrounds.
yeah, it's very adjacently similar. So cool. I'm excited. I think this is a great segment. I can't wait to cancel the rest of the podcast and just do this.
We're just gonna feed cryptid descriptions into Midjourney and see what we get.
I mean, honestly, I think we could build an empire on this.
Okay, new podcast.
All right, so that is the Anukins. That's the Socklings. That is whatever we named the Wolf Woman,
The Hound Witch.
the Hound Witch, and this week I am drinking a drink that I invented.
What?
I invented a drink. I'm calling it the Uncle Alfred, based on one of the episodes of Scooby Doo that we watched where they teamed up with Batman, and it turns out that Daphne's uncle is Alfred Pennyworth. So I took a Bundaberg soda, which is an Australian company that I think I've mentioned I used before to make some cocktails. They actually recommend you make cocktails out of their drinks. They do cocktails and mocktails. They have a lemon, lime, and bitters one that I thought would be very good with some extra dry Seagram's gin. And I was right. It was delicious. It was crisp. It tasted like a country club. And Uncle Alfred was on the family polo team.
Yeah.
And this just seemed very, very, upscale butler, drink it Bruce Wayne's Manor, play polo type of a drink. My wife from Connecticut immediately jumped on it and drank it, so I feel like I'm right.
Oh yeah. No, it sounds really good.
Yeah, it was really good.
And I'm drinking a UFO White. 'Cause I just didn't feel like having a cocktail, so I grabbed a beer. This is what I had in the fridge. UFO White is an American-style wheat ale brewed with California orange peel and fresh ground coriander. It is a very popular beer around where I'm from. I don't know where UFO is based out of, um, but I drink them quite frequently. They're one of my it's probably this is one of my go-to beers, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for something nice and crisp.
Awesome. I actually looked up a bunch of Batman cocktails, and there were a ton of amazing Batman themed cocktails. I just was missing like one ingredient for all of them.
That's what always happens. I gotta start looking up. I gotta start looking stuff up more than the earlier than the day of.
Probably.
Eh.
Yeah, I remembered I was on the couch watching cartoons with my son about an hour and a half before we were supposed to record, and I was just like, cocktails! And that's what I spent the entirety of my time before I put him to bed doing.
Oh, it's good. It's good that
Yeah.
you made the most of it.
So this week we did three more Scooby Doos. We did What's New Scooby Doo, Scooby Doo and Guess Who, and Be Cool Scooby Doo.
hmm These are from the second half of the Scooby Doo eras, so this is what we're calling the more recent Scooby Doo era that starts around the year 2000,
Two.
which again doesn't seem that recent anymore.
Yeah, it was Scooby Doo was brought back as a TV show for the first time in 14 years. Or actually only 11. Pup Named Scooby Doo actually ended in 1991. But
Hmm.
it came back in 2002. The WB rebooted it with What's New Scooby Doo. And then we jump over to Be Cool Scooby Doo, which is Cartoon Network's reimagining of it in a very Cartoon Network way from 2015. And then we did Scooby Doo and Guess Who by Boomerang and HBO Max, which is kind of a revamp of the old Scooby Doo show where he would have like Batman and famous comedians and stuff on it to do team ups. So we started off, I guess we'll do it in chronological order.
hmm Yeah. So this was
What's New
wait,
Scooby Doo?
what's new Scooby Doo? Because it was new at the time.
It was.
Yeah.
And the first episode's titled There's No Creature Like Snow Creature.
Yep. It has the gang investigating uh, crimes at a ski competition that are
Snowboarding?
seemingly was it snowboarding or skiing?
I
One
think it
guy
was.
was asked.
I think it was snowboarding.
It was a snowboarding competition, but the one guy, Avalanche, was previously a skier.
Yes, but it was 2002 at the height of like the X Games and stuff. So
Yeah, and there's a big ice monster who seems to be messing with the competition.
now
This was this was so late 90s, early 2000s-y. It was pretty incredible.
I loved it. First of all, the opening theme is by Simple Plan,
Oh yeah,
and
some nice
it is
simple plan action.
incredibly catchy for the first few times you hear it, but it's been stuck in my head for over a week and I hate it now.
So I mean like that I mean so that is something that the original series did that this series was able to also do in having a great like bop of a theme song because it's a good song. I mean it's good for early 2000s uh what would you pop emo, punk pop emo sort of era. Like
Yeah.
it's exactly that of like kind of a whiny sort of sounding voice lead singer, but just really solid pop punk music there. Did they
Yeah.
do Phineas and Ferb also? I think Simple
No,
Plan
that was
also did.
Bowling
No.
for Soup.
Oh my god, what a time it was.
And there is actually a Phineas and Ferb tie-in, but that isn't until we get to Be Cool Scooby Doo.
Ow, okay. So I'll hold off. I I don't know Phineas and Ferb that well.
Oh,
Um,
you gotta watch Phineas and Ferb. It's great. And its
it
sequel, Milo Murphy's Law.
I've seen parts of it. My daughter was into it for a little while. but we never got too deep into it. We kind of just kept rewatching the same few episodes over and over
Oh,
again until she got tired of it.
Phineas and Ferb is so funny. It is like genuinely funny, and again, so is Milo Murphy's Law. But we'll talk more about that when we get to that episode. So this Scooby Doo, What's New Scooby Doo, is a more up to date Scooby Doo. Now there's a big focus on technology in this one. Like they've got TVs and they've got computers and they're looking things up. And like when I say they've got TVs, like there's one in the van.
Yeah, it was being. I feel like there's a couple of different things around this same period of time where Warner Brothers, maybe especially, was taking some of their old IP and trying to update it for the 2000s. You know, the like old millennials, I guess. Well, no, because they were aiming at a younger audience, so that would have been like mid millennial. I don't even know. Because they did the same thing with the Looney Tunes characters. They had like a Looney Tunes revamp around this same era. It's not very fondly remembered. It was
Yeah.
called Lunatics Unleashed or something, which I don't think I ever saw a single episode of that. But What's New Scooby Doo? It was on. I was a little too old for it at that point because this would have been when I was in, you know,
Sophomore in
late
high
high
school.
school. Yeah, we would have been in high school, so I didn't watch this. But watching it now, I think they did a really good job of sticking to the formula, but adjusting it just enough for the sensibilities of 2002.
Yeah, like they have cell phones, but it's not a crutch. Like they're on a ski resort mountain. They don't have good reception. So, but it does lead to cool new things. Like they do kind of a rear window thing
Oh
where
yeah.
Freddy breaks his leg and is like watching from the window and like calling people and like kind of just being like eyes in the sky.
Yeah, I was like, are we doing a Hitchcock thing with this episode of Scooby Doo?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, wow, they're tying in Rear Window. Love it.
Yeah,
Simultaneously, oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say you could really tell that this was the point. I feel like Scooby Doo had been around for such a long time at this point that they didn't need to introduce the audience to what the show was. You know, like how we were saying with the very first episode of Scooby Doo, it just launched into it. Like we're just going into this, and this is the new thing. This is the show. And then 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, you have a whole pilot episode explaining like what the plot of this show is. And when we get to What's New Scooby Doo, I feel like we these characters have been around for such a long time that we don't need to reintroduce them like they did with 13 Ghosts. They could just be like, "Oh, here's the show. It's Scooby Doo. You know who Scooby Doo is. We're just going to roll along with it." And we go right into basically the same adventures but a little bit updated. Like sensibilities a little bit updated.
You don't need to do Spider-Man's origin story in every single Spider-Man movie.
Exactly.
What I will say, because you referenced 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, is that Daphne's outfit in this is the same one from 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, but it's appropriate because they're skiing.
Yeah, I did notice that. I was like, "Oh, I've seen this outfit on you before, Daphne."
So this
What?
one, they do classic Scooby-Doo chases, but they are a little more cartoonish. Like Scooby will use his tail as a propeller for like a boat. Will you pop out his claws and use his nails to cut through the ice and like float away. Just like little, things like that that weren't as present in early Scooby Doo. But, it fits tonally. I liked it. Again, they did a really good job with the chase in this episode. I really feel like it was my notice so far. It's just an up to date Scooby Doo. We only got one episode, but it's really just they modernized Scooby Doo from 1969 to 2002 without losing the soul.
Yeah, I think that really, again, it goes back to what we were saying in the last episode, where these characters, it really nailed it with these characters that they were able to transport, like they were able to move them wholesale. Like these are the exact same characters, they're being written the exact same way, and they just drop them into scenarios 30 years later, and it doesn't miss a beat. They don't. They're exactly the same, and they're doing the exact same shtick, and it still works. I think it's really impressive. I think they did a really good job.
I do too. It's a shame
The
that there's
show.
only 42 episodes.
Yeah, I guess it's not one of the longer Scooby Doo series.
It actually is one of the longest Scooby Doo episode
Oh wow.
series. It's tied for first place with the Mystery Incorporated and Guess Who?
Oh wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, it is. So when I say it's a shame, it was the longest running Scooby Doo. um, oh, actually, sorry, no. This I was reading the wrong one. This has 42 episodes, but that's still second place after the three-way tie for first place. But it's just when you see 42 episodes, you don't realize it's three seasons if you're expecting, like a 24 episode season.
Which I think is pretty standard for cartoons.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah, season 1
by
was
then,
25 episodes.
after like 3 seasons, I feel like your audience has grown out of your show. Maybe you're not getting new people to watch the old episodes, and you just wrap it up. It's not
Yeah.
like a sitcom that runs for 10 years or something like that, which also doesn't happen very often. So I guess it's not like a cop drama that runs for 10 years.
That makes sense. All right, so that brings us, I think that's a good way to segue over to the next one, which is Be Cool Scooby Doo.
Yes, this is I think of what we've watched the biggest departure from formula.
Yes, this is by far the most different Scooby Doo, but I loved it.
Yeah, it's this was what was this 2015?
This was 2015, and it was Cartoon Network. And it was the follow up to Mystery Incorporated,
It
which
was a very serious show
was a very.
as far as Scooby Doo can be serious.
Yeah, this went the opposite way, where instead of it being a very serious narrative show, they went back to the episode of the week. Super goofy, super Cartoon Network vibes, like huge Cartoon Network vibes.
Yeah, this is of an era. I would say it really exists in that period of time of cartoons. Like I feel like this style was really popular. And
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of like how I would what other shows I would put into it. I would say probably the newer DuckTales was running about the same time. I think maybe we started about the same time, and it's in that same kind of style.
It had the very distinct Cartoon Network animation style.
Yeah, it's not quite like Adventure Time.
It
It
had weird echoes of, to a degree, like the old late 90s Cartoon Network to me, like Johnny Bravo, Powerpuff Girls, like almost mixed with the more modern Cartoon Network.
hmm.
But I did not think I was gonna like it at first because it was such a big departure, but it was so good. And they do keep some things from Mystery Incorporated, like the gadget, like Fred, instead of Fred being into traps, he's into like pimping out the mystery machine and like putting all these gadgets and stuff into it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I would say I feel like they were trying to fill some of the personality void. I feel like
yes.
Fred and Daphne are often fabulously defined. Fred drives the van, Daphne is the pretty girl. Then what else? There's always a question of what else did they do with them. So Fred always becomes very, yeah, like in Mystery Incorporated, he was very into traps and gadgets and things. And then here, I would say Daphne, we see. Only watched the first episode. I've seen this episode before, and I want to go back and watch more of it. They kind of make her weird.
Yeah,
Like
that's
she's like really kind of almost deranged, like polite, like positively and fun deranged, but she's a little bit off her
I
rocker.
got kid version of Cheryl Tunt from Archer,
Oh yeah,
like a
yeah, that
kid
sounds fair.
appropriate Cheryl Tunt. Um, Yeah,
as that could possibly make sense.
one of my notes is all. It's the same thing you said. I was like, Daphne and Fred are weird in this one, but I
Right.
love it. It's so good. I actually ended up watching the entire first season because my son got really into it, and Daphne is just weird throughout, but perfect throughout.
Yeah.
But weird.
It makes sense because we know Velma. Like everybody knows Velma. She's the brains. Everybody knows Shaggy. He's the stoner. Everybody knows Scooby Doo. He's a pop culture icon. Yeah, Fred and Daphne are harder to define in the old shows, so you always like get more definition different ways in later series.
They switched up the voice acting a little bit. Velma's actually voiced by Kate Micucci from
Yeah,
Garfunkel and Oates.
she's been doing it. She's been playing Velma, I think, ever since then. Other than in like the theatrical released movie, and she isn't obviously in Velma because it's Mindy Kaling. Um, but in all of the like classic style Scooby Doo stuff that's come out since then, it's been her, Kate Micucci.
And Gray Griffin, who I'm a big fan of, does the voice of Daphne.
Yeah, and I think she's been doing. She was been doing Daphne for a long time too.
That's good to know. Yeah, she does Wonder Woman and DC Superhero Girls, and I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, she's a great voice actress. It's Matthew Lillard again. It's Frank Welker again. I think. Oh no, because in the What's New Scooby Doo, it was still Casey Kasem still doing the voice of
Yes.
Shaggy. I think it was Casey Kasem's last time doing Shaggy. He would have been in his early 70s at that point. Um, then Matthew Lillard took over sometime between. I think when they were starting to do some of the direct to DVD and direct to streaming movies is when Matthew Lillard took over, or it might have been History Incorporated. I don't know. I'm not gonna look it up right now. But
Uh,
always Frank Welker doing Fred.
yeah. So, one of the things I like about Be Cool Scooby Doo is they shake up who's ridiculous in each episode and iteration of this. So it's like my first note was in each iteration of Scooby Doo because, like in this one, as we said, Daphne and Fred are weird, and usually it's Shaggy and Scooby or Velma or something, and like they're really just being like, nope. In this one, Fred and Daphne are weird, and but then throughout the episodes, who they kind of like depending on the situation depends on who's weird. This one's definitely the most over the top, but I enjoy that. They have a great chase sequence in this one where they're getting chased by the ghost, and Scooby and Shaggy stop at a vending machine to try and get some food, and it eats their money, and they both end up getting stuck in the vending machine, and the ghost finds them and they're like, "Oh man, this is great. He can't get us. We're in the vending machine." And then he also gets stuck in the vending machine with them, and that joke slayed. Like we had to pause it. We were laughing so hard. Um,
Yeah, that was that was definitely my favorite gag. No,
it was a good
this is my
gag.
this is my second favorite gag from this episode.
Was the first the puppets?
No, my favorite gag in this episode is when Fred tells them he's not afraid of heights.
He's
He's
afraid of
afraid of
weights.
widths. It's just like, my God, I've never. It's such a simple joke. He's like, I'm not afraid of heights. I'm afraid of widths.
And then
And
it
it ends
comes
up
back
coming
into play.
back to play when he's trying to like cross over
A
a
very
roof. It's like, "Oh, it's
narrow.
not wide enough." I don't know why that joke.
It
What
was
I saw this episode when this show first came out, and I saw that episode, and I was like, "Oh my God, I love that joke!" Like I've never forgot that joke since this
it's
show initially aired in like 2015.
it hits so well, and I will tell you, it continues throughout the series.
So yeah, I have to watch it. So I tried to watch. these Scooby Doos with my daughter. I was like, "Oh, hey, I gotta talk to my friend about some Scooby Doo stuff. Do you want to watch Scooby Doo with me?" And she was like, "Yeah, I want to watch Scooby Doo." And I throw this on, and she goes, "I don't want to watch this one." I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "I want to watch the Scooby Doo I already know." And I had to watch other Scooby Doos,
Oh
like that
no.
were that we weren't covering for this episode, because I was like, "But I want to watch this."
The problem is we've now shown my son six different Scooby Doos and he likes five of them. And so but he only knows them all as Scooby Doo, so he'll be like, I want to watch Scooby Doo, but like he won't be able to tell us which Scooby Doo, so it's just this horrible trial and error because it's different every day.
Boy,
But yeah, no, there's a great joke later where they do a throwback because they're at the ocean and Fred doesn't like the water, or he's making fun of Velma. Velma's afraid of the ocean, and she was just like, "Oh yeah," says the guy who's afraid of width, and he's like, "Yeah, and that's why I respect the ocean. You know how wide that thing is?" Like, and it's just like they have so many good jokes that they bring back the appropriate amount. Another great joke in this one was that it starts off with Velma stopping at a puppet store and making puppets of all of them and just acting out everyone's feelings with the puppets at all times. And it's a joke that I was like, oh, this is going to be really annoying really fast. But they managed to keep funny throughout the entire episode.
yeah, Daphne and the puppets was a highlight. It was a lot of fun.
I knew they wouldn't keep them throughout the series, but by the end of the episode, my wife and I were both like, I hope she keeps the puppets. And she clearly doesn't, but we were like, I'm here for Daphne and these puppets. Uh,
Yeah.
this ended up being my favorite of all the Scooby Doos we watched.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna sit down and watch all of it. I think
yeah,
sounds
I
like something to
recommend
do.
it. It was written by one of the lead writers of Phineas and Ferb, which explains
Oh,
why I think I found it so funny. If you thought this was funny, you'll probably really enjoy Phineas and Ferb and Milo Murphy's Law.
yeah. I mean, like the parts of it that I've seen, I've enjoyed. So
Yeah, no, they're both really funny shows. And I don't always look up who a writer is. I look up voice actors and stuff a lot. But every once in a while I'll be like, who wrote this episode? Because this episode stands out, and I'll try and find that stuff. And I looked this up. I was like, who's the writer? And I was like, oh my god, it's the guy who wrote Phineas and Ferb. That tracks. It just fully tracks. The other thing, and my final thought on Cool Scooby Doo is, I really like that they are all friends in this one because we kind of talked about that last week where like they are a friend group in most iterations but they are not all friends.
right.
And in Be Cool Scooby Doo, they all are friends. You can pair anyone up with anyone and it's cool.
Oh, okay. Oh,
And
now I really want. I'm gonna sit down and watch this whole thing, and I'm not gonna watch any more Velma.
okay. Yeah, no, Be Cool Scooby Doo, I want a lot more. And again, Be Cool Scooby Doo is the longest running Scooby Doo, which is exciting but not long enough.
Oh, wow.
Really enjoyed it. It's very refreshing. I might have just liked it more because I think it's the last one I watched.
Mm.
And after six Scooby Doos, it was just very refreshing.
It's the most different
Yes. But
because we're gonna go. So because now we have to talk about Scooby Doo and Guess Who, and that's very much back to formula.
yes, this is basically just the old 70s Scooby Doo with guests, but in 2019.
This one, I would say, even more so than what they did with Whats New Scooby Doo. This really, really goes back to formula.
Yes.
This almost feels like it's supposed to be the 1960s, the 1970s again, in its general vibe. Like it doesn't feel like it's modernized at all. It feels like it is a throwback.
Yes. Now, for all these episodes we watched or for all these shows we watched the first episode, except for this show, because what IMDb lists as the first episode and what HBO Max puts out as the first episode are different. So we ended up watching What a Night for a Dark Night, which is starring Batman.
And that's Kevin Conroy, one of his last times as
Yeah,
animated Batman.
yeah, we had Kevin
Is
Conroy and Mark Hamill back.
yeah, that's right. Mark Hamill comes back to voice Joker in this. So you have your powerhouse Batman and Joker. You have your top-notch Batman Joker team in this. Uh, yeah, I don't know what I have to say about it. It really feels like the old Scooby Doo, but it's more meta. This one I want to sit down and watch more of the series before I have a real make a determination about it, because I think the people they choose to team up with are really interesting. I was reading through the cast listing for some of the later episodes, and so like they team up at one point with like Steve Buscemi.
That sounds
Okay, so
amazing.
that's like, well, that's clearly not for children. Children don't care who Steve Buscemi is.
Yeah.
Or like there's one where they team up with Wanda Sykes. I'm like, okay. Or Keenan Thompson. There's an episode where they team up with Keenan Thompson. I'm like, okay, so this is clearly aimed at millennials who grew up watching Scooby Doo. Or there's an episode where they team up with Urkel and have to fight the Urkel bot. So I really feel like it's aimed directly at the like late 30s, early 40s crowd. Because it's such a throwback that it's meta. Like it's such a throwback that it's self-aware.
Yeah. Yeah, I had similar notes, especially with how true it is to classic Scooby Doo, because the animation is much more modern, but it's just so true to formula. But simultaneously, since original Scooby Doo did Batman crossovers, this is
Yeah.
different enough from the Adam West Batman crossover of old that it's stands on its own. It's its own separate thing. Because I was like, it's weird that they're doing Batman again, but it is a completely different Batman encounter.
I mean, it's been 40 years. They can
Oh yeah, it was
can try
just
again.
it was just really cool that them not just reimagining the concept, but even bringing back a character and doing a completely different thing. This was really good with sight gags. There's this one scene where Freddy is in Wayne Manor and he knocks over a bust and finds a secret button and he keeps pushing the button, trying to figure out what it does. And a bookcase keeps moving and it's Batman changing into Bruce Wayne and he throws a batarang and like hits the button and closes the thing and Fred pushes it and it's just going back and forth as he's just trying to get his outfit back on so no one sees him.
And that is a nice callback to the Adam West era Batman, because that was an Adam West thing.
Yeah.
The little the hidden button in the bust.
Yeah, so like they did such a good job marrying the two. I was really impressed. I haven't watched any more of Scooby Doo and Guess Who, but I really want to after this episode.
Yeah, the one thing I would fault it is you can't figure out in this one, and as spoilers that we've already spoiled, the bad guy ends up being Joker, which is impossible to figure out
No. So I
because the lipstick.
I thought that initially, but then we rewatched the episode because my kid wanted to watch it again the next day.
You
And
do
there
parenting.
there are what was that?
Is it like you do
Like you
parenting?
do parenting, yeah. There are some hints throughout
Okay,
it. There's the red lipstick,
sure.
which, who would drop red lipstick? The
That's
Joker.
our first. That's our first major clue. Is
First
that
major
there's red
clue.
lipstick involved.
When the joke, well, the Joker is impersonating Man-Bat, and at one point Man-Bat sees them and lets out a laugh and chases them, and it is clearly Mark Hamill's Joker laugh.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, I missed it the first time, but going through, I was looking for like clues, and there are a few clues there.
Okay. All right, I
Um,
judged it too harshly.
No, because I thought the exact same thing going through the first time, but upon watching it as a parent who's already seen this, you pick up on a few more details, which is also cool because you're gonna have to rewatch these things. So put some rewatch value in it for us.
Yeah, that's true. It's just like we're all stuck watching the same. Like the Scooby Doo my daughter does watch, and it's two very specific Scooby Doos. Like I've had, there was one weekend where I just watched them like 4 times because that's what we were doing that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was I don't know, it was one of like direct a movie, like it's like a Frankenstein one. I don't remember the name, what it was called. It's like the Curse of Frankenstein or something like that. And then there's the Trick or Treat Scooby Doo, which is the most recent movie, Scooby Doo cartoon movie. That's the one where Velma finally is allowed to be a lesbian on screen. That
That
one is also, I would say, it's very much in the vein of this because it's very meta. It's a lot of throwbacks.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good one. That one I would say like this Scooby Doo and Guess Who I would say, and Trick or Treat Scooby Doo, like the stuff that they're putting out with like the classic style characters, they're very in the same vein. So if you like this, I think you'd like Trick or Treat Scooby Doo.
Okay. Good to know.
So yeah, Scooby Doo. We watched 6 Scooby Doos in the last month, and I think it was very worth our time.
Yeah, no, I was not super optimistic about the new shows, even though I the only one I had seen was Mystery Incorporated, and I loved Mystery Incorporated. I was apprehensive, but I'm thrilled with both of them. I might have to check out or with all three of them, I might have to check out,
Entirety.
the entirety, but honestly, that just leaves Velma and Shaggy and Scooby Doo get a clue, and I heard bad things about both. So maybe I'll
You
just
know,
stick with these five good Scooby Doo shows.
yeah. So, all right, let's wrap it up. Anybody want to tell us what your favorite Scooby Doo is? Please let us know in the comments of wherever you're listening to this show.
You know,
We'd love to hear what your Scooby Doo is.
tell us what your favorite Scooby Doo movie is, because there is a
Ooh,
lot of Scooby Doo movies, and I feel like we will eventually have to do Zombie Island.
it's the best one. It's
Yeah,
so good.
but, let us know, aside from Zombie Island, what your favorite Scooby Doo movie is, and maybe we'll follow up on that.
No, we'll have to do more Scooby Doo down the line because it is. I mean, it's the pinnacle of this topic, children's spooky.
And they've crossed over with everyone. So, like, we've already done Courage the Cowardly Dog. They crossed over with Courage the Cowardly Dog. Right there, that's a movie we should do. So,
Hmm.
with all the crossovers, there's definitely some really good stuff for us to do.
All right, so let us know what you like. We'd love to hear it. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. We're at RTSpiritsPod, and we look forward to hearing from you. We really appreciate you listening.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Come back next week for or 2 weeks, next episode for our upcoming topic. Which, are we going to tease it, or are we just going to leave them waiting, Sam?
Oh no, let's tease it. Let's tease it so they want
They have
to.
a reason to come back,
What are
or
we doing
not.
next time?
Uh, Next week we will be doing another live read.
Oh yeah, that's right. We definitely want to hype that. We're gonna go back to
Camp Run for Your
Goosebumps.
Life.
We're gonna do some of the stuff we didn't do last time.
Well, at the beginning, that we had a choice. We could go to nature camp or we could go to sports camp, and we went to nature camp. So this time, I think we're going to take the sports camp path,
Hmm.
and we'll see how that goes.
All right, that's gonna be a fun one.
I'm excited. All right. Thank you for joining us. I'm Steve,
I'm Sam.
and thanks for joining us.
Hey.
Bye.